Welcome to the Athlete Insights Podcast, hosted by Yash Pad Day, a podcast focused on letting athletes tell their journeys in their sport.
Welcome into another episode of the Athlete Insights Podcast. Today I have Minot State assistant football coach, slot backs coach, Mike Famiglietti here. So Coach Fam, as you've mentioned off camera, they call you. Appreciate you coming on and spend some time. I know we were talking. You guys are in the heat of camp season, 7-on-7s, and then travel. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to connect with me.
Well, I appreciate you too, Professor. So I'm definitely excited to be on your show and share some things and share my career and help you out. And we're looking forward to it. So it is a busy time, as you know. Right at the middle of camp season, that's really kicking off up here in the Dakotas. They just go back to back. Like South Dakota State will have a camp one day, a day later, North Dakota, then North Dakota State will do their 2 or 3 day camp, and it gets to be nuts. So it's a lot of fun. You get some great young
busy,
guys.
but fun. I always say, if you really enjoy what you're doing, then it never seems like work. So
if you're bored, it's kind of fun. If you're not doing anything, it's easy to get bored. So
100%. So, but as I do with all my guests, though, we'll take it back to kind of your beginnings, your childhood, and kind of where you fell in love or started to understand sport. When was the first time you kind of interacted with sport, and was football kind of your first love, or did you have other sports that you played growing up?
Well, growing up I was born on the East Coast. I was born in Hartford, and they don't have too many sports they're prideful of. But my dad was actually a season ticket holder for the Hartford Whalers before they moved and everything. Like I still got an old school starter jacket, Hartford Whalers.
Gotcha.
It doesn't fit me. I don't know. It's very different in the 90s, but I always wanted to play hockey growing up, and I was a little chubby kid. And so I played soccer. I played baseball. I didn't see great, so I didn't really hit the ball all that well. But then football is kind of that unique sport where it's like you can be a chubby kid and there's a spot for you. So we played like YMCA flag. We played, then it started going into tackle and everything when we moved to the Midwest and padded football when you're in middle school. And that's really the sport I really fell in love with. I was a center. I was an O-lineman. I was a nose guard, a linebacker. But I was a all-legal lineman back in like seventh grade. And everybody else just kept growing bigger. And I learned a long snap. So that was kind of my niche. That was my thing. I probably would have been a pretty low-level Division III football player. Like I would have been one of those guys who has to pay pretty darn close tuition other than academic money, and nothing wrong with that. But, I really wanted to – I used to have that chip on my shoulder of proving everybody wrong and proving the people who believed in me right, and just really pursued long snapping, worked at it hard, and ended up getting the opportunity to go to Western Michigan. And I got the long snap there as a true freshman. My first ever game was against Michigan State. We were at one point the only MAC team to ever face the University of Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Wow. And it was pretty crazy. I mean, they beat us pretty good. I got completely clotheslined on one punt attempt, which would be a fun video I can share with you. Then after my freshman year, I turned down a couple scholarships to go to Western Michigan my freshman year as a walk-on because I'm like, hey, it's high level. It's still reasonable for my family with some academic money and being in state. But they're like, hey, you got 1 year to really go earn that scholarship. And especially it was about 3 weeks before fall camp, I was offered a full ride because another team's long snapper tore his ACL in summer workouts. So they're just dialing up all the guys that were there. Yeah. And I turned down that full ride to keep going because I'm like, I'm already committed. Yeah. And then I ended up not getting the scholarship after playing. And I probably, I could have been more mature my freshman year. Like I didn't go to class, kind of chased the girls thing a little bit. I did okay. I got like a 3.0. But academic, I still could have done a lot better,
For sure.
Like I had class and, failed the class. And that teaches you a lot, So I think you can learn a lot from failure and doing those things. And, I ended up then going to Western Illinois. I transferred before the transfer portal and went from there. I played my last few years there. We weren't very good my time at Western Illinois. So as a long snapper, I got to play a lot. Like one of my groomsmen was a tight end, and he said, Mike, you actually played more plays than me. And that was kind of funny to think as a snapper, you played more than a tight end on your roster. And yeah, but I had some great coaches all the way from high school to college, all the way through the end of my college career who
For sure.
um, they had that great influence on me. And I always, every summer, I got to go back a little bit and help mentor the high school and middle school athletes at my high school to in the weight room and speed and agility and things and the
Yeah.
work ethic piece. And
Uh-huh.
that really taught me to want to go into coaching. So I was
Yeah.
able to transition after I graduated, weirdly in biochemistry, to go be a college football coach.
There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah. And you know, you mentioned the different stops you were at in your playing career. You started off at Western Michigan and kind of joined the Leathernecks at Western Illinois and all that happened. Can you talk about some lessons that you learned from both of those stops at Western Michigan and at Western Illinois? What did you kind of learn about yourself, and how has that, what you've learned at those
Mhm.
two stops in your playing career, how has that helped kind of shape your coaching philosophy?
Well, I think a couple big things. Number one, like I wasn't meeting the standard as much my freshman year,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I think having like a set standard, like that applies to everybody. Like, hey, you got to be
Yeah.
early, you got to be on
Hmm.
time, you got to,
Yeah.
you got to play with tremendous effort. Like
Yeah.
that's something that goes everywhere, right? What's the
Hmm.
standard? But
Yeah.
then above your standard is your expectations. Like, hey, the
Mm.
third string guy, like if he makes a good play,
Hmm.
that's a nice surprise. That's good for him, and you can celebrate that, right? But
Yeah.
then your
Yeah.
starter, they just need to be that much better, and they can't be complacent. That
Yeah.
expectation, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
something I've really brought to our specialists and everything, and to our position groups that I coach is, hey, rule number one is like you got to be part of the team, right?
Yeah.
Whatever our team needs you to be, right?
Yeah.
You got to
Yep.
do it to the best of
Yep.
your ability. And
Hmm.
then our next piece is, hey, you got to stay healthy, right? And it's not
Hmm.
just like, oh, physically, like, hey, like injuries happen, but like
Hmm.
you can't sink your psyche because you got hurt. You can't disidentify yourself because, oh,
Yeah.
I don't have football right now. Or,
Yeah.
hey, I'm only caring about the football piece. I don't care about the grades, or I don't care about my social life, right? Or I
Mm.
go too
Yeah.
heavy one way. And
Yeah.
then our last piece is you just always have to be working to get better, right?
Yeah.
There's always
Yeah.
improvement any of us can make. If you're a starter, you can get better. If you're in the NFL, you can still get better. You
Get
can still
better.
chase like one level higher. And if you're a backup, you know who you're chasing, but
Yeah.
how do you get there? It's not just
Yeah.
a
It's like you can have
constant
goals, but you got to have a
growth.
roadmap to get there.
Exactly. So that's a big
Yeah.
thing we've been going a lot heavier with our guys is a process mindset of like, there's a goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But how do I get there? What am I doing to get there? Right. It's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
perfect roadmap. Like,
No. Yeah.
like when you pull up directions to someplace, it'll give you like 6 different ways and you got to pick the best one, but there's different turns, there's rough roads, there's,
Yeah.
and you just got to go through and
Go through it.
experiencing some of that failure as a player. I can translate to that guys,
Hmm.
like I did
Hmm.
transfer. I
Yeah.
went my first time through the recruiting process,
Yeah.
kind of really only focused on like the football part. I
Mm.
could have done more on the school. I could have reached out to more guys who were also committed, make better bonds that way.
Yeah.
And that's why I think so much of like what Western Illinois, my second stop, meant to me. And I
Yeah.
made the best of it. Like we had 2 different head coaches. I didn't transfer after my position coach and our head coach was fired, right? I
Mm.
stuck it out. I'm like, hey, we're going to do
Yeah.
it. And it wasn't very easy. Like those coaches came in with new standards, new expectations, and I was coming
Yeah.
off injury. And
Yeah.
no
It's
one looks
hard.
more
Yeah.
useless than a long snap with a broken arm. So
Yeah. No, but I mean, I'm always interested in understand. It's nice how you really broke that down, because I'm always interested with coaches with teaching. As you know, being a professor, you have a teaching philosophy of like how you want your classroom to run, what values you want to instill in the students that you're teaching, and so it's always interesting to get to understand and get into the mind of a coaching philosophy and understand how coaches interact with their players, interact with their processes. And can you talk? What you talked about, you mentioned there early on, we were joking about how you transferred before the transfer portal ever existed. Can you talk about the differences between kind of your time transferring between schools and kind of how that's changed, and how that's affected you guys at Minot State, the transfer portal and everything around that?
So weirdly, I kind of think my process actually kind of it's more similar to like other guys now going through it. Like I didn't have like an agent or anything like that going to through help it, but I had coaches I knew who were third party coaches. Like they trained long snappers all over the country. So I hit them up, be like, hey, I'm transferring. Like, do you know of any place who's looking for a transfer or any of those things? And that was it. And then I got hit up by all different people. Like I had offers from everything from like JUCOs, like Georgia Military College when I was transferring to then like 20 different FCS and FBS programs were all recruiting me. So it was kind of that unique, like, you know, I was a guy who went in, I had game tape so I could be marketable, but I couldn't be as public. There wasn't like a public, like, hey, everybody could just search his name. I was more just having to reach out and be proactive on my part. And I think that's something that's a little lost in recruiting now is the proactiveness, especially with how easy it is. Like you sent me a DM, you know, if you were a prospect, you could send me a DM with your tape and information to go get recruited. Some guys just kind of post and just, it's kind of like shouting from a roof. You're not telling anybody. It's like when they teach us CPR, you know, you got to be like, hey, you got to do it. Instead of just say, can somebody call 911? Right. It's like, no, hey,
you're the expert, or you got to do it.
Yeah. But then the transfer portal, I mean, it especially at D2, it affects us a lot, you know? It creates opportunities for us to bring guys in. And it's also opportunities for our guys who are really high achievers and high performers to get an opportunity up a level. Like a couple of our players, I think we counted it the other day, like 7 of our former players are on Division I rosters now. So it's crazy what that can do, you know? I do feel sometimes it can create some mobility, and some places it can maybe shift your culture towards what's coming in. So it's all so much now about like an establishment of a culture, right? What is your team about and how well you can integrate new people into your program. And I think those programs who are really succeeding are doing that. They're bringing guys in and they're making them learn about them. How do I be a Minot State Beaver if I come to Minot State, whether I'm a freshman or a senior? And I do think it makes it tougher now probably on the high school guy. Like we're going to recruit high school players. Well, we signed about almost 40 of them last year, 35 of them. And there's opportunities there for high school guys, but it is shrinking. Like a school can get a guy who's already performed at the college level, a guy who's 20 years old, you know, instead of a guy who's, you know, 18 and they got to kind of guess on his development a little bit.
No, and like you said, the transfer portal has kind of changed the way recruiting or the shape of recruitment. I know I was watching an interview the other day from Rick Pitino, basketball coach at St. John's, and he said, I only recruit portal guys. I don't even look at the high school kids. And so that is an interesting take from Coach Pitino. But again, that's kind of the portal has kind of shifted the way we view it. And then the other flip side of that is also the NIL aspect. Kind of what have you seen from a coaching perspective in terms of NIL at Minot State and how that's affected?
I mean, I don't want to say it hasn't hit us. I mean, it's something, you know, like we see what we have to compete against. And that's something, you know, we want to aspire and create a program like that. And we see like other schools that are on our schedule or other schools in our league that have NIL programs that are pretty well developed and robust. So now it's kind of that thing, like, what really is the rule at D2? Is it a 36 scholarship or is it 36 scholarships and then whatever else you can fundraise? You know? Where's that money coming from? I feel the NIL thing, it's grown so big so fast. And a lot of people kind of think the exception is the rule, you know, where they're like, hey, I see this quarterback getting like $100 million or he's getting like $100,000 or $1 million, right? And then a young man getting like a partial scholarship at D2, it's like, so what NIL am I getting? It's like, there's so many levels to it. And
there's no guarantee on it. That's the thing.
No, there's no guarantee. If you get hurt or you get beat out, you're probably losing those NIL contracts, you know? I know they're not supposed to be performance based, but you know, where that money's coming from is a lot of times outside the program and, you know, how does that go that? But, you know, it creates the highest levels of college football being, pretty close to what a professional league is. And then at the D2 level, I think we can be that what college football is meant to be like. Hey, you can get rewarded for your athleticism. We've put like 7 walk-ons on scholarship since Coach Shields has been here, guys who've gotten that. And it's just, some guys even had to be like here for 2 years. I was a walk-on and they earned scholarship. Like you can see like the reaction and response from the team when a guy earns that. Like it's huge.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, and it means something, for some guys, like that is their NIL deal, is their getting $3,000 a football scholarship, and it makes it more reasonable for their family, or it makes it 100%. So they can live off campus, or it covers their meal plan so they can eat, or there's so many things that like college football is great about. And shoot, I would love it if I could have made, $100,000 off my likeness, or even like $5,000, or even like, shoot, I would have got, free horseshoes over there at one of the restaurants in town. Like it'd be really cool. Like I'm glad guys can do that. I'm glad businesses can do that stuff now. Yeah. But having the expectation of it being a full lifetime changing salary is ridiculous,
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And as you are in the, you're assistant coach at Minot State now, and when you look back at coaches, we talk about the differences in college football from when you played and when I was also in college, and I worked college football for the last 10 years, video coaching, all that stuff as well, like student assistant. And I've seen so many changes happen over the last 10 years. Obviously there's been so many changes that we just talked about from your time to now. Who are some, what are some coaches, or is there some coaches in your career that kind of you try to emulate as you kind of are moving into the coaching ranks, that you looked up to, that you really, or that really shaped you from Western Michigan to Western Illinois to even, your time at North Dakota and going from there as an assistant coach and building that out? Who are some coaches that really left an impression on you?
I mean, I feel like every stop I've had like a coach that really helps me out, or like teaches me a new way to be a better coach. I mean, going back all the way to high school, like we had a really great strength coach. He was vice president of like the National Strength Conditioning Association, Mike Nitka. And he just had quick sayings. It's like eye socket, hip pocket, like little things that were like great coaching points, great coaching terms, where it's like, it was all in one. I don't need to be like, okay, well, when you're running, you go your arm from here to down to your hip, just eye socket to hip pocket. That's your movement, right?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Little things like that. Then at Western Michigan, Mike Sabach, he was really honest and direct with our players, and he knew his stuff. Like he built it of a lifetime of being an assistant. And he actually writes, him and his brother actually wrote books, Art of Coaching and everything, where they use them as college textbooks. So yeah, Mike Sabach, him. At Western Illinois, there's a lot of them, some of the coaches like Coach Prevost, when he was my position coach, we didn't get along as well. I was probably a bit of a pain in the butt, to my fault. But ever since getting into coaching, he'd been a great mentor. He'd been a guy, like anytime a big thing happens, he was like the first guy to text me or give me a call as some advice or, hey, going through some things. Like when I was on a staff and our head coach was let go, when I was a restricted earnings guy, he really helped me out there. Going North Dakota, Bubba Schweigert, like he was a head coach who, that's where I first learned about on being around the backside of a college football program, where it's like, okay, here's the daily stuff, the stuff that needs to get done. But even though as a head coach, he would still sometimes carry stuff out to practice, because like there's no job too small to be done or no one's above any level of work in this thing, like
for sure. Yeah. We all have one goal to kind of win football games. So, regardless of what happens, it's
right. And he's like, I'm walking out the practice anyways. I can carry a bag, I'll just put it down there on the sideline, so that way it doesn't have to go like, I know someone doesn't have to just run back, I mean, like everywhere I've had coaches, like Coach Dosh was a great coach to work under, Coach Hendrickson, Coach Matt Myers, Coach Mike Hall, our O-line coach there. I mean, I learned a ton of stuff every day from Coach Shields and Coach Semi, and then Coach McBride, Coach Langford, even the other assistants on our staff. Those things I can pick up from them,
Yeah. 100%, 100%. And
Mhm.
it's great because when like I said, I've worked in college football, video, doing creative video. I coached high school football when I was doing my PhD out in Colorado. So I've had some good coaches, some good mentors in that way. And so it's fun to understand kind of the mentors and the stuff that like you said, there's been people in my life that have like when I've been working with them, it's been kind of a pain, but then after when I actually get into the side, they've been really helpful, like you said,
Mhm.
with your position coach
Mhm.
at Western Illinois. So been interesting to kind of fill that out. And before we end the podcast, I really coach started the podcast because when I was coaching high school ball, wanted to a lot of my kids that I was coaching wanted to get asked me a lot about getting to the next level because I had coached I had worked in college football and kind of seen
Mhm.
the college football landscape before I came back into the high school ranks and started this to kind of give them inspiration to focus on what they need to focus on to get to that next level. And so I always ask my guests this too is, if as you've been a guest coach at numerous camps and
Mhm.
AFCA committee member and things like that. And it's been great to see kind of your leadership evolve over time. But if you were talking to young kids today, younger generation, high school, middle school, high school kids, what's one piece of advice you'd give them to kind of get to that next level, get to that D2 level, and then
Mhm.
potentially, like you said, as you transition into coaching and your coaching career, it's within your stops in your coaching career as your coaching career is evolving, how they could get into the coaching side of things. What advice would you give to young kids?
You know, and these ones are probably said a lot, but
Hmm.
I'd say you just can never stop working. You always have to
Yeah,
keep working harder. You always have to
yeah.
find a way to get better. And then
Hmm.
you always have to be willing to learn and be coachable. Even as a coach, there's ways you can
Hmm.
adjust, grow, and learn.
Yeah,
And just saying, hey, we've always done it this way, or we used to do it this way, that might not be the best way. It might not be working today.
yeah, yeah,
And there's always how can you work? Are you above any job? Like, I'm kind of like our staff's figured out guy. If you don't know how to do it, or like if there's a random thing that we got to know about, like filing credit cards, like I got to be a person who learns it so I can teach other people.
yeah, yeah.
As many ways as you can help those around you, learn them. At some point, it might be your actual job, or you got to teach somebody else to do it so they can
Do
do it.
it. Yeah,
Um,
100%.
so,
Never stop learning. I mean, I always say, when
mm,
I tell my students, I'm like, if you stop learning, that's the day you die. You got
mhm,
to
yep,
continue to learn, continue to grow, regardless of the
yeah,
position you're in, regardless of what you're doing. So
mm,
it's great to hear that from you as well. But that's all the time we have for this episode of the Athlete Insights podcast. Coach
mm,
Fam, appreciate you coming on. I'll have your social media, your Instagram, your Twitter, LinkedIn, your social media linked on the video, so you
mm.
guys can follow Coach Fam's journey at Minot State and beyond, and then my podcast. You guys can find my podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get a podcast, you'll find this one. So, Coach Fam, appreciate you coming on, taking the time and chopping it up with me, and like I said, I'll have all your social media and everything linked, and we'll go from there. So I appreciate you coming on and taking the time.
I appreciate you too. Thanks. Go
And
Beavers.
go Beavers. We'll see you next time.